If you drive a plug-in hybrid and you do this after refueling, you could be quietly damaging the gas side of your car while thinking you're protecting it. And yes, this can lead to warning lights, rough engine starts, fuel system problems, and repairs most PHEV owners never see coming. Here's the mistake: filling the tank like a normal gas car, then letting that fuel sit for weeks while the engine barely runs. That sounds harmless. It isn't. Today I'll show you what PHEV owners keep getting wrong after refueling, why it happens, what the most damaging habit is, and what smart owners do instead. And if you want practical car advice that saves you from expensive mistakes, hit subscribe, because this channel is built for exactly that. Let's start with the biggest misconception. A lot of PHEV owners think the gasoline side of the car is basically a backup plan. They think, I mostly drive electric, so the engine and fuel system barely matter. That mindset is exactly what gets people into trouble. Because a plug-in hybrid is not half an EV and half a normal car that can be ignored whenever you want. It is one connected system. You've still got a fuel tank, pump, injectors, emissions hardware, vapor recovery system, engine oil, sensors, software logic, and a gasoline engine that still has to work properly the moment the car asks for it. And when that side of the vehicle gets neglected, the whole ownership experience can get weird fast. Not just the engine, the whole car. So let's go through the biggest mistakes PHEV owners make right after refueling. Mistake number 1. Topping off the tank after the nozzle clicks. This habit survived from older gas cars, and a lot of drivers still do it automatically. The pump clicks off. Then they squeeze in a little more. Maybe they want a round number. Maybe they want maximum range. Maybe it just feels wrong to leave empty space in the tank. But on a modern PHEV, topping off is a bad move. That extra space in the tank is there for a reason. Fuel systems need room for vapor expansion and proper EVAP system operation. When you keep forcing fuel in after the pump shuts off, liquid fuel can end up where only vapor should be. That can contaminate the charcoal canister, interfere with emissions controls, trigger check engine lights, and create fueling problems later. So the first rule is simple. When the pump clicks, stop. Do not try to bully the tank into taking more fuel. Mistake number 2. Filling the tank full, then barely using any of it. This is where PHEV ownership becomes very different from normal gasoline ownership. In a regular gas car, fuel gets cycled through fairly often. In a PHEV, a lot of owners do most of their daily driving on battery power. That means the gas can sit in the tank much longer than people realize. And gasoline does not improve with age. Over time, fuel quality drops. The lighter compounds evaporate. Combustion quality can suffer, and depending on conditions, moisture and oxidation can make the situation worse. Now pair that with an engine that may run only occasionally, often for short periods, and sometimes only because the car decides it has to. That's how you end up with rough starts, uneven engine operation, reduced efficiency, higher emissions, and a fuel system that is not as happy as the owner thinks it is. This is one of the biggest hidden traps in PHEV ownership. You save fuel so well that the fuel itself can become the problem. So if you refuel today, but you know you'll spend the next few weeks doing almost nothing but electric commuting, a completely full tank may not be helping you. Sometimes it is smarter to keep only the fuel you're likely to use within a reasonable time, unless you specifically need the extra range. Mistake number 3. Assuming the engine doesn't need exercise. A lot of owners think the car is doing great because EV mode feels smooth and quiet. But the gasoline engine still needs proper use from time to time. It still needs lubrication circulated through it. It still needs seals and moving parts to operate normally. It still needs injectors and combustion components to do real work. And it still benefits from reaching proper operating temperature once in a while. If the engine only appears for a few short, awkward bursts, especially with older fuel in the tank, you're setting up the exact kind of neglected use pattern that creates annoying long-term problems. That's one reason many PHEVs will occasionally force the engine to run on their own. The car knows something many owners don't. An engine cannot stay healthy forever by barely existing. So after refueling, don't think the gasoline side is taken care of just because you plugged in the battery. Mistake number 4. Using cheap or low-quality fuel because the engine barely runs anyway. This logic sounds harmless, but it can backfire. If your engine runs less often, the few times it does run, you want clean, stable fuel doing its job properly. Because now you're not just dealing with low-quality gas. You may be dealing with low-quality gas that sits in the tank longer than usual. That is a terrible combo. And when the engine finally has to work harder, for a road trip, cold weather, climbing, hard acceleration, or a depleted battery, the owner suddenly notices the gasoline side feels rough, noisy, sluggish, or inconsistent. Then they blame the car. But sometimes the real problem is simpler: bad fuel, old fuel, or both. Now let's get to the most damaging mistake of all. The biggest mistake is refueling like a normal gas car owner while completely ignoring fuel age and engine use strategy. This is the real killer. Not because it destroys the car overnight, but because it quietly builds a problem in the background. Here's the pattern. The owner fills the tank completely, then drives mostly electric. The engine barely runs. The fuel sits. The owner assumes less engine use means less wear. Then one day, the car needs the engine for a longer drive, colder weather, stronger acceleration, battery protection, or a maintenance cycle. And now the entire gasoline side is being asked to perform properly after being semi-neglected for weeks. That is where rough starts, hesitation, extra noise, poor efficiency, warning messages, and long-term fuel system headaches can begin to show up. This is why smart PHEV owners don't just think about filling up. They think about fuel turnover. They think about how often the engine actually runs. They think about whether the gasoline in the tank is being used or stored inside the car. That one mindset shift changes everything. So what should you do instead? First, stop topping off after the nozzle clicks. Second, don't automatically fill the tank to the brim if you already know you'll be driving almost entirely in EV mode for the next several weeks. Third, use decent fuel from busy stations, especially if that fuel may sit longer than usual. Fourth, make sure the engine actually gets proper use from time to time, not just tiny cameos. And fifth, pay attention to any fuel freshness or engine maintenance behavior your PHEV already performs, because the car may be trying to protect itself from the exact problem most owners never think about. Here's the takeaway. If you own a PHEV, stop treating gasoline like it no longer matters just because you can drive on battery power. That one mistake leads to overfilling, stale fuel, poor engine use habits, and hidden long-term problems that can wipe out the savings that made the car appealing in the first place. A plug-in hybrid is incredibly efficient when both sides of the system are treated properly. But when the gas side becomes an afterthought, the bill eventually arrives. If this video helped, subscribe and drop your PHEV model in the comments, because I'm planning more videos on the hidden ownership mistakes most hybrid and plug-in hybrid drivers never get warned about. And before your next fill-up, remember this. Sometimes the damage doesn't happen because you drove the car too hard. Sometimes it happens because you assumed half the car no longer mattered.